All right, hello, welcome to Adventures in Lollygagging and friends. We are playing a new game tonight. We're playing a game called Fragged Empire, 2nd edition. A new game for us. It's relatively new to the universe, as I think it was just released from Kickstarter within the last couple of months. But I'm very excited. There was a 1st edition. This is the 2nd edition. I know there's other games like in the Fragged universe and such, but this specific one, we're doing space, sci-fi in the far, far future, post-human. So it's kind of apocalyptic in that way. But yeah, looking really forward. If you're watching this later on YouTube, check the show notes and stuff. We'll have links to everything if you're curious about getting a hold of it yourself. But we're going to be doing a session 0 tonight. We're going to be making characters, making our group, coming up with a name for our spaceship, which is probably just going to be the Hot Pocket. But we'll see if someone can come up with something better. We'll see how it goes. But that's where we're at. I will give a slightly, ever so slightly larger explanation, or at least background for the setting in a few minutes. But let's just say hi. I want to say hi to everyone really fast. That's here, and I'm going to ask you. I mean, obviously, introduce who you are. That's fine. But I also want to know, what is your favorite sci-fi show, movie, and/or game? And I do want to warn you that there is a correct answer to this question as we go around. So, Joe, who are you? What's your favorite sci-fi show, movie / game?
Oh, man. Hi, I'm Joe from Defenders of Kobold. And favorite sci-fi?
Were you into the... I mean, like, we are playing a sci-fi game, Joe. You see, I rolled randomly. I always roll randomly for the order of the layout. I always do as my little mini game. Joe won. And he probably wishes he did it now.
He's not so sure he feels so
favorite sci-fi is probably The Expanse.
Expanse is an excellent answer. Excellent answer.
Nice.
Great answer.
Okay, fantastic. Maitre, who are you? What's your favorite sci-fi?
I am Maitre, and my favorite sci-fi. I was gonna say The Expanse until Joe stole it from me. But my favorite sci-fi game is Mass Effect. Mass Effect 2.
Mass Effect 2, excellent choice. I love Mass Effect 2. Yeah, that's a fantastic game. Especially 2.
Yeah, 2's great.
Fantastic. Then we have the disembodied head of God, Chuck.
It's
tell us about yourself and your favorite sci-fi.
Hi, everyone. I'm Chuck. There's too many. Like, there's so many. Like, I'm going through, is it this one? But I think I'm going to go with the movie that I can always fucking put on and watch, and it's never going to turn it. And it's Edge of Tomorrow.
Okay.
Oh, yes.
Okay.
That's a good one.
Respectable answer. Respectable answer. Okay.
Yeah.
Melissa, who are you? What's your favorite sci-fi? You might even know the answer, but I know you shouldn't say that answer because that's cheating.
I'm not going to say that answer because it would be cheating. So, Melissa, Jeff knows this very well. I absolutely am horrible in any topic of identifying something that is a favorite. That is just not something that I'm very good at all.
Extremely well.
So I'm going to go back and say one of the first sci-fi games that I remember playing was Unreal Tournament.
Wow.
So I'm just going to throw that out there.
Legit.
Okay.
I'm
Melissa,
not going to answer your question, which you're also very used to.
Melissa's an interesting creature. We met, when I first met Melissa, she was playing Unreal Tournament, Dead or Alive, the fighting game, and watching Berserk. That was the first impression I have of Melissa. And this is
a good opening impression.
Yeah, right? Nice. Fantastic. All right, Jeremy, who are you? What's your favorite sci-fi? Get it right, damn it.
I mean, honestly, for me, it's a toss-up between Babylon 5 and Deep Space Nine.
Okay. Those are excellent answers.
Legit.
Those are absolutely excellent answers. All of you are wrong. The answer is Farscape.
Farscape is great.
I love that show with a passion, and I am going to be using that as inspiration for a lot of what we're going to be doing throughout. There's even sentient ships within the Fragged Empire universe, which is very exciting. So we might run into way more of those than we probably should. So that we could just make more references. And great. But no, all those were fantastic answers. And hopefully we're going to have a little bit of all of that But yeah. Side note, also, one other quick question: does anyone know or remember the MMORPG WildStar? Anybody?
I know
That sounds
it.
familiar.
It showed up for a while. It had a lot of attitude. It was kind of space. It was sort of built in the WoW style, and then it fell on its face and it's left. Yeah, but this game, in terms of its setting and style, sort of reminds me of it in some way because there's a lot. Anyway, just throwing some stuff out. All right, enough of that. Let's dive in. Ashley remembers WildStar. We used to play WildStar. Like Ashley's in the chat. Okay. So let's talk for a second before we kind of get into the setting as a whole. Obviously, a lot of this is going to be flexible. I've been doing a lot of session zeros lately, so let's just touch on a few things. I want to make sure we're all kind of on the same page. So for me, I'm approaching this using like comparisons. Farscape, Mass Effect was on my list. A little bit of Firefly, and that kind of
Nice.
plucky crew type of thing. So the idea is really you guys are more of a small crew that just kind of gets caught up in bigger things, right? Kind of classic concept there. That's really what I'm at. In terms of like tones and things, like I'm not treating this like Alien or Mothership, so it's not going to be hardcore horror, which isn't to say that we aren't going to have like scenarios here and there where horror might pop up. But it's more going to be like exploration, adventure, intrigue, that kind of stuff. Is kind of where I'm sort of taking it. But if there are things that you all are looking for specifically, or if you have lines and veils, things that you don't necessarily want to cover, like let me know as well. Like you don't have to say it now, but shoot that stuff out to me. I know we all play together a lot, but it's good to check in every now and then. And then I do want to stress that we are going to be doing some combat. This game does have a lot of combat rules. It's not, I would say calling it a combat heavy game is probably fair. But in some ways, we've been playing a lot of Savage Worlds lately. There's a lot of aspects about Savage Worlds that kind of I'm seeing similarities in here, as there's like a kind of a quick encounter system for resolving combats in a fast way if they're not super important. But then there's also tactical combat when they are important. So I imagine we're going to be kind of bouncing back and forth between those, similar to how we did when we were playing Holler and Deadlands and all that kind of stuff. But I would say expect to see some maps, expect to see some combat. I think it will pop up, even though we do play a fairly theater of the mind game. I do think we'll probably be kicking into that a few times here and there. So just a couple of things I want to get out of the way, just so we're all on the same page. All right. Next thing. Let's get into like the world a little bit more, just to give you the base. I don't know how much all of you have read. You guys have access to the PDFs and such, but I don't know how much you've read. But the deal is, I'm going to, this is the summary, and I'm oversimplifying all of this, so apologies to the creators. There were humans. They got really powerful, like super crazy powerful, like really stupid powerful. Eventually, they started to decay, like genetically decay even. They made these creatures called the Archons as their successors. There's like a big old kind of inner human faction kind of war over it. Archons themselves kind of got obsessed with sort of perfection and creation. Eventually, the humans died off. The Archons kind of got obsessed with this notion of perfection. They created the Zion, which they thought were like the most perfect, wonderful creature. And then they decided like, nah, never mind. No, they're not. And then the Zion got like really mad and like tried to kill every single Archon. So this crazy war happened for a really long time. Eventually, almost all but one Zion was killed. Zion, then that last surviving Zion like disappeared like to deep space behind what's called the Black Nebula. And there they created what somebody in the party is going to be, we're not going to say yet, a Nephilim. They kind of created the Nephilim as a weapon. And so when they came back, they just totally fucked up the Archons and just wrecked them, just completely. This horrible, horrific war. There are all sorts of these other species that all of you are going to be playing, because all of you are either created by the Archons or probably created by the Zion. And where we are playing is shortly after the Archons and the Zion, this big, horrible, terrible war happened. And now all of these different species are kind of returning to the stars and starting to sort of venture out from where they were kind of hiding here and there. Each species is sort of venturing out for different reasons, and they settled in different areas. But that's kind of the big conceit of the specific setting. We're going to be mostly playing around, at least at the start, in what's called the Haven system, which is kind of the main or most populated system. It's got a bunch of terraformed worlds. One of the things humans were really good at was terraforming worlds, and they had these big ass robots that would do it. And there's still some that are working this day, like way out there somewhere. So this Haven system is where we're going to start. There's a bunch of population centers, a bunch of big old space stations, all that kind of stuff. And so that's where we're going to kind of hang out, at least at the very beginning of the game, and eventually start spiraling out from there. The other thing I should say about this game is that it's not a hard, I wouldn't say it's not like a super hard sci-fi game where their science and tech is all over the place, but there also is like some spirituality stuff, some magical stuff, and you can almost call it that. Like you use ley dust to sort of travel really fast, in addition to like jump gates and things like that. There are certain species that have access to what is basically space magic. So there's a couple of them that have access to it. Here and there. So if you really have this desire to play a space wizard, you can totally make that work within this setting. So lots of cool things like that. So are we ready to make some characters? Got any questions?
Yes.
Yeah.
Questions? No. Characters? Yes.
Yeah, I assume that. I don't know why I do. I do that in class when I teach all the time. I ask 2 successive questions that contradict one another depending on what you're asked, and students look at me strangely. Okay. All right. So let's dive in. Character creation gonna take a little time, so let's just be patient. There's no Foundry module yet, though I know they're working on some stuff. So hopefully you have your character sheets up. So there's a several step process, but the first step that we're gonna do is we're gonna pick your species. I'm just gonna go through them really fast. I'm gonna do a lot of talking tonight because I'm going over a lot. Hopefully that won't be a pattern. I know all of you kind of have your eye on something, and we'll kind of get into that in a moment. But I'm just going to go through all of them really fast. I even have some art that I'm going to pop up on the screen for those of you that are watching this. So let's go. I guess let's just go like, one at a time, maybe something like that. All right. So the corp, I would say, is probably the one we'll start with. So these are just my summaries, by the way. These are not the in-game. These are not in-book summaries, just sort of how I remember them. So the corp, and I should say species is, by the way, like a combo of like your physical natural ability, affinity, but also like culture as well. So some of these, like the term species is kind of used a little loosely. So the corp I like to think of them as supercharged Americans 2.0. Basically, they fully embrace capitalism. These were a species that kind of were a mistake, and they were isolated and no one could go near them, like stay the hell away from them. And then as the war was kind of going crazy, they were on a planet where the Ursai, which is another one of the playable species, like basically got attacked and died around them, et cetera, et cetera. And they discovered this old human like archive. And then that's where they discovered the notion of capitalism. And they have fully embraced it. They have given up any sort of sense of like racial identity, and they are just embracing this notion of like capitalism to its fullest extent. There are some that linger around that are still called the Vargardi, which is what they were called beforehand, but they're very, like I said, Americans 2.0. There's a bunch of different subgroups. There's suits and socialites. There's neon hunters, and then there's like the Vargardi. If you're anti-capitalist and such, that's probably the best one for you. The other 3 are kind of groups that you could potentially play within the hierarchy of that species. There's the Kaltoran, which is another somewhat humanoid species, though they do have like these pointy ears that kind of set them apart. They're very big on family. They're very much like the plucky crew of Firefly. It's kind of how I think of them in some ways. Their biggest defining trait is their genetic memory. So meaning they can essentially access sometimes and share memories that their ancestors has. This is a double-edged sword because in some ways it allows them to learn tech more quickly or access tech that has kind of fallen out of use recently. But the downside is that during those wars, they were hiding because those Zion hated the Kaltorans because like the Kaltorans were kind of like the favorites of the Archons for a little while. And so they were getting bombarded and killed. So they hid underneath these big old pit cities, but they didn't prep particularly well. And so they didn't have enough resources. So they start eating each other, as one does. And so now, in the modern day, like 100 years later or whatever, they have these memories of all this horrible stuff that occasionally pops back up. So there's a bunch of different playable subgroups. There's rascals and watchers. There's pioneers. There's vagabonds. And then there's the dark tribes. The dark tribes, the people who have continued to do the whole underneath the city, eat people kind of concept. There's the Legion. That's the next one up. They are basically the big warrior military like species. So Klingons, Krogan, whatever kind of comparison you want to make, that's basically what they are, military society, but they're still very high on non-military roles. Big old muscular humanoids that kind of got this grayish skin here and there. They live in cold places. And like the subgroups are based around, are you a mercenary that's approved by the government, a mercenary that's not approved by the government? Are you like a farmer, or are you like a nomad that's out in the wilds? And that's kind of how the branches are kind of split around. They're also big pals with the Corp. The Nephilim is the next. We already mentioned them. The Nephilim are a playable species. They're trying to come back from like the bad times. If you've played StarCraft, I think of them as like the Zerg in some ways. So they're a species that was essentially bioengineered for war, and now they're trying to evolve past that. And there's a whole mess load of different forms and subgroups that you can get. Some of them look humanoid, some of them don't look humanoid. Others are very far from it. There's different broods. And so like the Eden brood is the good brood. The Oni brood is the bad brood. They also eat people. A lot of eating of people. I approve. So the playable subgroups are
thing.
Right. I agree. Yeah. The Tenebrous are the one I think that's on the screen, which is like the ones with a bunch of tentacles and stuff. The Gargantuans are these big old dudes who they can kind of resurrect each other. And they used like there's like this, like the way it's described in the book is that they can, if multiple Gargantuans together, they can like give over parts of themselves, including their memories, to like help resurrect a different Gargantuan. There are the Emissaries, which are a more recent kind of version, which are very humanoid looking. And they're there to try to make everyone feel better when they're hanging out with them. And then there are the Sentient Munitions, which is like Nephilim that were created to be like weapons. And they're like, oh, we're not weapons anymore. We now have consciousness and stuff like that, which is fun. Next up, we've got the Palantor. That's the robot group that's the robot species of the setting. They are mechanical bodies, but they have the digital copies of the minds of ancient humans who long ago digitized themselves. They are at war with the Mechanids, who's one of the big bads. They're like the bad robots. And both are basically looking for different nodes to access this big old galactic network so that they can try to rescue more minds from that network. And so it's like a race to get them out. But the Palantor are very small in number. They actually live secretly in the ass end of a comet that goes around the Haven system, which is a lot of fun. There are the Remnant. These are the kind of furry, I guess you could call it. They're the cat people, furry people of the setting. They're the anthropomorphic species. Cats are the most common because the Remnant are like, they were traitors. Basically, they betrayed and they set off like a big ass weapon and basically killed themselves. They wiped themselves out, but then they were resurrected. And so they're a very spiritual species. They follow that being, the all being that actually resurrected them. So if you're looking to be very kind of faith-based, like space monk, that kind of stuff, like this might be a good option. You don't have to be a cat person. You can be others. It's just where the resurrection happened was just sort of around a population center where like cat remnants were a little bit higher in population, but you can perfectly make a space fox, let's say, if you wanted to be a star fox or something. You can play things like All Faith, Refugees, Scion Mind. These are all essentially different factions. They're different faiths and belief systems, different fractured belief systems within that group. Back to the Palantir really quick. I forgot to mention, like, one of the different playable subgroups are sparks. So you can be like different colors, and that's like defines your color. So things like pink and yellow and green, blue and purple. There's also MVPs, which are like robots who think they're essentially playing a video game, sort of, and that's what they think life basically is in a way. And there's puppeteers, so cool, which are sort of disembodied, and they're like they're sort of kind of controlling others. Chuck, are you going to be a remnant?
No, I've got a remnant sidekick. This is it.
I love it. All right.
He was
two more
beating me up because he wants food.
Very nice. 2 more, and then I'll shut up for a few minutes while you guys talk. So the Twyfar, which is the next one, they're very nomadic. They're humanoid looking. They travel the stars. They usually have these big old solar sailed ships and these big fleets and such. They are a symbiotic species because they combine 2 different species into one. The main one that we know is the Twylinger, which are the human looking ones. But then there's another species called the Farron, which is like a pure energy species that no one really knows anything about. Like no one knows what they are, but they somehow sort of merge. And so that's why we have like the Twyfar. It's like the 2 of them together. This whole species like breaks themselves off into different symphonies, and these symphonies are kind of defining how they interact with their Farron. And so it's all about kind of interacting with that that energy ball that they kind of merge with. If you want to play a space wizard, these are a very good option. So are the Remnant. If you want to play something from Dragon Ball Z, these are probably a pretty good option too. If you want to play something like that. And then we get to the Zhao. Zhao is the last one. I'm not going to lie. These are my favorite. They are blobs in their natural state. They were a chemical weapon that gained sentience. They were meant to basically eat all biological matter. And so the more they eat, the smarter they get, but also like the more powerful they get. But eventually they get to the point where they kind of start going mad. And so if you eat too much, like you're hunted down and killed and destroyed and such. They're relatively newer species in terms of like trying to come into the fore and get people to sort of trust them. And you can be like different versions of them because they form themselves most of the time into bipedal forms, and then they like take in other materials to sort of give themselves, skeletal structure and like organs and stuff like that. And so you could be an organic, which is pretty standard. You could be a chrome, which I know Joe is leaning towards, where like you put like more machinery into you. Or you could be a wilder. Those are the ones. So those are all the species. Sorry, I talked a lot there. Those are all the species that we have available to us for playable. I turn it over to you all. Who would like to start first? Who has an idea for what they would like to play?
Announce who the Nephilim is first.
Yeah,
right?
there was a thing going on in chat to try and figure out which one of us is playing the Nephilim.
Right on. Okay.
I am taking my votes, my bets, and I am placing it on Joe.
You're betting that I'm playing.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
What a redirect for the
Right?
person
Wow.
that picked the Nephilim.
Yes, I will be playing a Nephilim because I want to play just a bunch of space tentacles.
Okay. Fantastic. When I thought of Nephilim, you play Nephilim, I thought, because you can kind of define a little bit of how they look. I just kept thinking of your snot bubble from UVG. I'm like, you're just going to
Oh, yeah.
again, aren't you? Kind of in a way.
Oh,
Okay.
Oh man.
That's not a bad idea.
Okay. God, I shouldn't say anything. Such a broken character that was. Okay.
Tango Carne, here I come.
So if you're picking Nephilim, so every species has various benefits and disadvantages that come into play. And so this is where you're going to start putting some stuff onto your sheet. So Chuck, you're going to want to look that up. There's the lists in the back of the rules. That'll kind of go through everything. For Nephilim, they essentially get a little boost to biotech skill, medicine, exotic, and command. They get a little bit increase to their endurance damage that they deal out. They get a bonus on acquisition rolls. They get a couple different languages. However,
Nice.
as you might expect, because Chuck's playing them, they're very uncultured. So they get -2 to culture. That's pretty good, man. Come on, that was pretty good.
Yeah.
Pretty good
It's
job.
a good segue.
It fits.
Good segue.
It fits.
And also, you are subject to a species complication, so prejudice from Kaltorans and Legion,
Okay.
Ooh.
because Nephilim were a creation of the Zion. They fought on the side of the Zion. Kaltorans and Legion did not. They fought on the side of the Archons, and so that's kind of where that stems from. So you're going to want to write that down as well, that complication part, and add in all the extra stuff. If you're using the PDF that we're using, you can see that there is a column for species traits next to the skills. So just add, if you have bonuses from skills, put them in there. Bonuses or penalties, put them in there.
Cool.
Okay, so we know who Chuck is. Who's next?
And those are extra complications on top of the one that you have to take at first level.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Yep. You get everything the species gives you. So there's that. Who would like to go next? Chuck, not Chuck. Joe, you know what you're going to be. Just say it, man.
Yeah. I want to be a Chrome Zao.
A Chrome Zao. Okay.
Yeah.
So, let's see. I just had it up. So you're going to be a Zao. So Zao specifically, you get some bonuses to physical, plants, and exotic. You get some bonus to personal defense. And your body is Zao goo and various materials you've eaten. Like, I just love that. You may function in all non-heat and non-intense radiation-based hostile environments. You're immune to all sicknesses, stims, including strong hit effects. Strong hit effects, by the way, are like sort of like critical hit bonuses, but they happen more frequently than critical hits with the way the dice mechanism works.
It's when you roll a 6 on the 3 dice, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So, and in combat, you're often rolling more than 3 dice because your weapon dictates that. We'll cover mechanics when the time comes. Okay. Let's see. You may use skills to perform Zao body morph arcane rolls, so you're going to want to dig into the arcane rolls if you're interested. However, Joe, you have -2 to your max intelligence. So, really quick note on attributes. Attributes, you can have between 0 and 5 to your attributes. When it says that you have -2 to max intelligence, that means the max amount of points, and we'll do their attribute distribution in a minute, is going to be 3. Like, you can't put any more than 3. Okay. And then you also are kind of poor. So -1 to your wealth skill. Also uncultured like Chuck. So -1 to culture. And you're bad with computers, Joe. So go ahead and get rid of that. Plus, you get 2 complications. You get obsession. You're eternally hungry. And you also get prejudice from Nephilim. All right. Awesome.
We get to be No Face from Spirited Away.
All right. Who is next?
I'm go next. I am planning on playing a corpo.
Nice.
Because if anybody knows anything about me, it's how pro-capitalism I am.
Really, it's a little uncomfortable sometimes.
I mean, you are Canadian. You live in Canada, right? And all Canadians, as we know, really just want to be Americans, right? Isn't that how that works?
I'm pretty pinko even by Canadian standards. Like, for Canadians, I'm pretty pinko.
Fantastic.
I'm basically an anarchist in the US.
I'm glad that you picked that one. It's going to be fun.
It's going to be a lot of fun.
I find the corpo. I was surprised at how fascinating I was with them. I'm like, just think about that for a second. They just happened to find it, and they're like, "Man, this capitalism stuff is great. Like, it's just so great." They just don't know. They just so the naivete. Okay, you get, and you can add this. Like, you can find this in the list section of the rules. There, I also kind of in our Google Drive resource, there's a playable species PDF that just has like the stats and stuff from your species. If you just want to open that separate. Buffer Stream, she's going to get +1 to wealth culture because, as we know, Maitre is far more cultured than Chuck and Joe. +1 to wealth culture, tactical and operations. +2 to your max resources influence. We'll get into that kind of stuff later. +1 into current resources and influence. It's basically what you use to equip items and to kind of equip your spaceship. However, you get -2 to max strength, which kind of sucks. Which means the most you can put in your strength attribute when we get to that stage is going to be 3. And you also have a complication, which is prejudice from Kaltorans.
Kaltorans are the lovey-dovey family ones, right?
Yeah, they're the ones who ate people 100 years ago.
Obviously, they don't like us because, they're soft and they think you can't put a price on love, but you definitely can.
Those people who ate their families to get through this dark, apocalyptic 100 years of darkness, such softies.
Okay, look, we've had enough of this like generational trauma. Pick yourself up by the bootstraps and let's get going.
Exactly. I hope there's a trait called "pick yourself up by the bootstraps." That would be fantastic. Jeremy or
It's a
Melissa?
complication.
Is it really? Oh, that'd be great. Jeremy or Melissa? Do you have something?
Yeah, I'm gonna go hand in hand with the corporate. I'm gonna be the corporate's best friend. Yeah. I'm gonna play the Legion.
Yeah, fantastic.
Ex-soldier. Now I'm in it for the money. And honestly, the corporal goes to all the fun places. Why wouldn't I hitch along? I do what I'm already good at. I may as well get paid for it.
Hell yes.
Yeah. We're gonna raise hell. Look good doing it.
Do you have an idea of like what of the subgroups that you liked the most? Because there's the Exilia, which were like the people who left, and they're like the unofficial mercenaries that are kind of being welcomed back into the fold. There's the Auxilia, which are like the official government sponsored mercenaries. There's the what's it called? There's the Nomads, which are the folk that kind of they left to go fight stuff in different parts of the planet and never quite got pulled back into like the sort of the military base stuff. And then there's the foreign branch? Can't remember what it's called.
Yeah.
But do you have an idea of which one? I was just kind of curious.
I'm a toss up between the first two. It depends upon Maitre. Like, is your character like legitimate? Like, do you have ties with the government, or are you just kind of doing your own thing?
That's a great question and not one that I have an answer to yet.
I'll lean towards the former, like kind of being accepted back in, but because it's not really a warm welcome, I've hitched my ride up to this person that has a ton of money. And yeah.
Maybe it's probably more interesting if I am like in line with them, right? Like rather than a merc, because that sort of adds some narrative complications to our shit if I have bosses involved. So maybe I am more legit.
Okay.
Legit
to quit? Okay. I'm still going to go with the not fully authorized merc, but that's part of why I'm hitching myself to you, because I'm trying to...
I love that.
I'm becoming legit.
And going straight. That's so lovely.
Well, Jeremy, you get bonuses to leadership, as we all know. He is the de facto leader here. +1 leadership, resolve heavy arms in gunnery.
Yeah.
You also get bonuses to your personal armor. You have the ability to function in space hostile environments for 5 minutes a day, and you can function in Arctic hostile environments. So your home planet is basically in the Cerberus system, but within the Haven system, there's like an outpost on the planet of Lilith, I want to say it's called. Yeah, Lilith, which is like this icy, tiny planet kind of to the far outer portions of the system. Whereas Corp, Maitre, you are mostly in the like there's towns and places everywhere, but the Corp, they have a bunch of these big old space stations around, the equivalent of Jupiter, this big old gas giant called Alabaster, and that's where they live, these big ass space stations. So I'm showing a little of the map for the main map. I really love the art style of the maps in this game, as you can see, because I ripped it off to do the overlay. And then let's see, Joe, as a Zhao, your home planet is a secret location called Plaid or Plaid, and only the Twyfar really know, and they've been kind of keeping you there. They're your unofficial jailers in a way. Not so much jailers, it's just like, we don't really trust you. Just chill. We want you to grow and that kind of stuff. And so there's some tension between Zhao and Twyfar as a result. So right now the image on the screen, if you're watching, is only for the Haven system, which is again where we're going to start. But there's all of you can be anywhere here. There's plenty of population centers. There's plenty of different things. So yeah.
I'm either, as the Chrome subspecies, they're usually kind of more integrated with other society and not on the planet.
Yeah, and like you're definitely. Interestingly enough, like Zhao and Palantir are kind of friendly as well. Yeah. So like they kind of get along in that regard. Okay. And then it's going to kick us over to Melissa. I know, Melissa, you had a couple options. What did you do? What did you end up with? What did you decide on?
Yeah, so this definitely came down to like while we've been streaming so far. So I thought about doing a green spark Palantir because I thought that would be a ton of fun. And I liked that the green spark were sort of like, they're kind of not as kind of fancily made, and there's like more of them kind of as the scraps are being put together. And I definitely liked that. I ultimately decided against it, and I am instead going to go Salamander Symphony Twifar.
Very nice. So
yes.
The salamander ones are like the teacher types, the sort of scientists and thing. They also do like the slicing, where you kind of slice off part of their ferrin and kind of pass it along kind of in a way. Fantastic. Okay, very cool. So again, the Twifar, that's the symbiotic, it's a duo species. Mm-hmm. It's the one we got the Twilingers comboed with the ferrin.
And how often do you get to do that? So that's why I wanted to do it, because you don't get to do that every day.
Cool. Mm-hmm. So you're going to get bonuses to you're going to +1 to your electronics, astronomy, heavy arms, command, and engineering. All of you can see this. I'm just reading this for the stream. +1 to personal armor, but versus energy specifically. A ferrin shares your body, which means you get on one of your weapons, you get the innate in energy keywords. You get, it's called Ferrin Blast. So one of your weapons will get that. And you also can use skills to perform Ferrin arcane rolls. So when the time comes, if we need to talk about arcane rolls tonight, we will. But right now, that's where you're at. You have -2 to grit, to max grit. So we've covered like what that means. So the max grit you can have is 3. Disruptors will deal an extra strong hit to you, an auto strong hit to you, and also there's some other very specific things when it comes to energy attacks. And your complication, as we've already kind of touched on, prejudice from Zhao. So Joe hates you because you won't leave his people alone. That's where we're at.
Fair.
Okay.
Fair.
Joe is pretty hateful, as an individual.
Right?
Yep.
Yeah. Just the negativity just oozes off of him.
Radiates.
It's an aura.
He sent me a Discord message. Let me read it really quick. It says, "I know she's your wife, but do we really have to have Okay. All right. So we got our species. Fantastic. Let's talk about attributes. So attributes, there's 6 different ones in game. You get 18 points to distribute across them. Let me read through all of them. So you've got strength. You guys know what strength does. Reflexes. A lot of the names can kind of tell you what they do. Some of them do affect substats and things like that. So strength will affect your equipment, like how much you can carry, that kind of stuff. Reflexes, much like you would expect, might affect other things as well. So you got strength, reflexes, mobility, focus, intelligence, and grit. Grit allows you to do some rerolls. I should point that out. So that does actually affect it. And I'm trying to remember.
Also, recover or something like that?
Yeah, your recovery and things. I have them all here. One sec. So strength will give you equipment slots, affects your endurance. Let's see, affects certain skills. All these attributes affect a couple different skills. Reflexes will affect your defense score. It also will affect your sighted shot action when we get in combat. It's one of the ways you can one of the actions you can take, sighted shot. It also affects medicine and planet skills. Mobility is your speed, basically how far you can move, etc. That kind of stuff. Also affects stealth. Focus will affect a couple different actions like sighted shot and Overwatch, but also your weapon adds your focus score to endurance damage. And so in this game, there's endurance damage and then there's attribute damage. Attribute damage is what eventually will kill you. So if you start taking attribute damage, if you ever get down to -5, you die. Endurance is like what you lose, and then eventually, as strong hits and critical hits start coming through, that's when you start taking attribute damage, and that could potentially kill you. But endurance is kind of there, somewhat as like a sort of a I don't want to say a shield because there are shields in this game, but that's kind of what it is. Intelligence is combat order. So how when you go in order, when you go in combat, and you also get a boost from cover from your intelligence, and it again affects a couple skills. And grit, we already talked about. It affects recovery, affects rerolls, stuff like that. So those are how you can apply them. Now you have 18 points to distribute. You can go between 0 and 5. Some of you do have a max penalty. So some of you, based upon your species, might only be able to go up to 3. In this game, if you have a score of 0 or 1, you get a -1 to all skill rolls related to that attribute. If you have a 4+ as your attribute, you get a +1 to all rolls. So if you had, say, a 4 in mobility, you would get +1 to stealth rolls. And there is sort of a slot for that in the character sheet. Any questions on attributes? I'll let you guys go ahead and.
I'm curious about like the plus and minus max thing. Like, do you get more attribute points as you level up?
No, but attribute. So there are some traits that affect attributes. So like you can optionally take some of those that might kind of, and also they're just going to fluctuate as you take damage as well. So they kind of go up and down here and there as you take some damage, heal it back, that kind of stuff. But as like
there's a trait I saw for Zhao that I was confused about how it worked, because I know my intelligence has a -2. But there's like a trait I can take as a Zhao that gives me a +1 to all of them. It says I get a +1 max to all of them.
+1 max.
But it's like a trait.
Yeah.
So I guess I'm confused. Does that move all of my stats up by 1?
No, it just gives it's just the max stat that you can put it in. So if you have +1 max all, that means all of your traits, you could potentially invest up to 6 points right now. It's only how much you can invest in it. It doesn't give you the boost on top of it.
Because I'm confused by that, because I can't take it during character creation. Like, it requires that you have prerequisites that you can't have during your creation. Yeah. So I was confused what that would do unless you get attribute points like later.
So there are tons of traits, and the traits in this game are in different categories, and some of those categories are attribute traits. And so if you should take a look at some of those attribute traits and see if some of those traits actually boost your attribute score, because that would be I don't know off the top of my head, I don't have them all memorized, but that would be my guess, just looking at it.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Let's see, because I'm gonna pull one up just to double check really fast.
While they're looking at that, what are folks thinking about their distribution for their attributes? I'm going high on intelligence and dumping strength.
Yeah,
opposite.
I'm not far off from there.
I'm trying to figure out what tactical and operations are, like, specifically, like what they do, so I can figure out what the associated skill is.
Like, your combat skills aren't tied to the stats the way that the other skills are.
Okay.
They will get their own bonuses based off the equipment that you use.
Got it. Thank you. That's super helpful.
So Jeremy, you're going opposite. You're going high strength and dumping in.
Relatively well-rounded. Basically 3s on everything except for strength at 4 and intelligence at 2. So nothing with a deficit, but only one thing with a bonus.
I took 2s in strength and focus, 3s in intelligence and mobility, and 4s in reflex and grit. Because reflex and grit tie to the 2 main skills that I want to focus on.
Which are?
Do I want to give that secret away yet? Oh my gosh, put me on the spot. Medicine and biotech.
Nice.
I'm going to be our Nephilim healer.
I'm so excited about that.
Why? Means we have to let you touch us.
Jeremy, you of all people are not allowed to complain. Your favorite thing is to make everyone grossed out whenever they heal you.
I know. I love
horrible
healers. It's the best.
Yeah. All right.
I guess the way like pluses and minuses to the attributes determines how I'm going to invest. Because when I was looking through it, when I saw it had like a -2 to my stat, I thought it meant like I have to put 5 points into my intelligence to get it to a 3.
Yeah.
And then if I took the
I thought that too initially. All it does is reduce your max score. So yeah. You still always have the 18 to distribute.
So
I can only raise my mobility to a 3.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Sorry, say it again.
So I don't know how to raise my attributes then. I'm looking through like the traits and I don't see how to do that.
So my trait, if your character if your species, as it say, which yours does, has a disadvantage -2 max strength. So by default, you can take an attribute like strength at character creation, you can take it to a max of 5. But because you have the disadvantage -2 max, you as a corp can't go higher than 3 at character creation.
Okay. But then, sorry, you guys were talking about that the -2 on the totals.
No, that was just a misinterpretation of what it meant. It's like, so it doesn't affect your total; it just affects how many you can invest.
We have an expert answer in the chat. There are very few ways to boost your attributes, some traits, and outfit modifications.
There you go, Joe. Yeah, that's why I don't know all the traits off the top of my head, but that's what I assume since there's just so many of them. That's probably where they would come from. So there you go, man.
Okay.
Thank you.
That's because I was wanting to get there's like a trait called like perfect form or prime form or something like that for Zhao, which buffs the max of all of your attributes by 1. So then I would have like a net of +4 for my -2. But I didn't see how to like take advantage of that. It was raising my max.
In terms of like when it happens, I'm not sure. Like what are the requirements for that trait specifically?
I just need, because you start with 3 knowledge and you need 4 knowledge for that trait.
Gotcha. Okay. So yeah, I mean, it's probably something you can build towards, and then we can like research the various traits and see which ones affect your attributes. The other thing I should say right now, by the way, is that there is in the game, there is a rule called, I think it's called like retro, excuse me. So basically it's like lemon law. Like when you gain a new level, you can choose to exchange one attribute point trait, or a trained skill for another of the same kind. So, God dang it, Chuck. So
chat said I had to.
If you put something at level 1, for instance, but at level 2 you want to rearrange it, then you have the ability to do it. So that also might be another way too. Is like actually
that might make sense.
Reassigning
if I take that, then
else.
It'll let me move my points around once I level.
Chuck, you look amazing.
And yes, Jeremy in chat, Joe that system.
Yeah.
Joe wants to know how to maximize, and I respect it. I do too.
Joe wants to know how to get 7 bennies at the start of every session.
Exactly.
Even though he's only going to use 3.
That. I can
Chuck, you should be a Palantir puppeteer, because that's kind of what they look like.
Yeah, I could.
That's kind of what they look like.
I could, but I really want to play a massive tentacles that heals people and doesn't understand that not everyone wants to be a bioengineered monstrosity.
That's fine. I'm just gonna kill
this one, and then the next one I will.
And then we're gonna give the people what they want.
Yeah, that's
always what you.
We got to do what we got to do.
All right, how we doing on attributes? We ready to move on?
My trade, did you get your attribute?
I did. Thank you.
Spent your 18.
Awesome.
Yes, thank you so much.
What are the dot, like on the character sheet when it has the dots and then the score? Is that
let me look at it again.
The dots are just like to have a visual representation. You can also just type in the number.
You should type in, because in the PDF it actually will take your strength and it'll calculate some other things for you.
Right.
So definitely type that in.
Okay. And it's a 1 or a 0 that gives you a minus?
Sweet.
It's a 1 or a 0 that'll give you a -1 to associated skill rolls. It's a 4 or above that'll give you a +1.
Joe, those are called hexagons.
God damn it.
Yeah.
My vision is so
Well done,
bad
Chuck.
they look like circles.
I had to zoom
what
in.
do you- what-
Okay. People are so old with your bad eyesight.
Yeah, what's
I
that
have
like?
my computer glasses on. Let me switch to my
Just-
old man glasses.
You just keep yours right connected to your eyeball. That's
All right.
There we go.
Are we ready to talk about skills?
Yeah.
Let's talk about
Yes.
skills.
Yes, we are.
Bunch of different skills. There's basically 3 different categories. There's primary skills. Okay. You get 6 of those. You get to train in them. Now, in this game, it's a binary concept. It's you're either trained or you're untrained. That's it. Okay. So it's not like you're going to keep getting extra levels or something like that. Like if you have something from your species or whatever, that's different. Or a trait. But in terms of trained versus untrained, it's binary. So if you roll a test with a skill that you have it trained in, you will get a +1 to that roll. If you roll a skill with something that you're untrained in, you'll get a -2 to that roll. And that's it. Obviously, you'll get bonuses or whatever from other things, but just from the trained perspective, that's where it's at. You get so character creation, you get to train 6 primary skills. You get 2 personal combat skills. There's only 4 to choose from. There's light, which I mean, I feel nervous describing it this way because you can reflavor these things so heavily. But like, think of light more like kind of pistol-y. Think of heavy more like rifles and sort of big old guns. And tactical. There's a lot of grenades and ordnance stuff I was seeing in some of the lists of tactical. And exotic is kind of like if you wanted to go melee, that's the way to go. So you also can get 2 space combat skills, and we are going to try some space combat, which we've tried in other systems, and it's been fun. But I'm confident with this one. I am.
We have faith.
So what the game recommends, and I'm just going to sort of echo it here, is that as a group, you should have somebody trained in each of those skills. So like, make sure you have at least one person who's trained in wealth, at least one person who's trained in persuasion, at least one person trained in leadership, and so on and so on and so on. And so I would suggest you all kind of talk that out here and figure out who's going to cover what. There's 5 of you, so there's going to be overlap. Obviously, no big deal, but probably try to make sure everything is at least trained. And then when it comes to the personal combat, small arms, heavy, tactical. I said light, I meant small. Small arms, heavy arms, tactical, exotic. You get 2, and you can kind of split that up. That shouldn't be hard to cover. And then all of the different stuff for combat, for like running your ship, kind of split that up as well. So I turn it over to you so I can sip. Oh, yeah. One other thing.
Sorry, go ahead.
One real quick thing. That's a good point. And thank you for the reminder. The other thing when you get trained is that it allows you to take traits within that skill, because skills have traits. So if you don't have a skill if you have an unscreened skill, you can't take a skill trait in it. So keep that in mind.
Yep. But definitely heavy weapons. That's an obvious one. And then maybe tactical.
I can take tactical. I get a +1 tactical. I would also recommend wealth just to make it easier for us to get shit.
Is it
or persuasion if we want to talk our way into getting stuff?
I mean, both would work. It depends on your strategy, right? I think if you're bribing your way in, or if you're just status, I think maybe. But then if you're trying to, it all depends on your approach.
I think I want to play a more facey kind of character if it's okay with everybody. So maybe persuasion.
If you want to be
character
good cop,
should not be the face.
I'll be bad cop because I have +3 to leadership. That would be great.
Yes, that would be so good. Okay.
I'll be good at yelling at people.
Can we do persuasion? I'm gonna live vlog everything. Is what's gonna happen.
Are you gonna do a socialite? I really want to play a socialite.
I think I want to play a socialite.
That's fantastic.
I absolutely was saying that to myself. I'm like, I would totally play a socialite. This would be.
I think I'm gonna play a socialite. I'm gonna live vlog everything.
So great. Oh my god.
So are people okay with the persuasion?
Oh yeah, you go for it. That is.
Do we want
to be?
Do we want to just
forte.
Go down the list and just make sure?
Actually, that's probably a better way to do it.
Yeah.
Who's taking wealth? Is that my turn?
How many skills can one person have?
Six from that first category. Combat's separate. There's a separate number for that. So 6 from everything from wealth to planets.
Okay, so I'll take wealth and persuasion for sure.
Okay, nice. So you take wealth and persuasion. Jeremy, you already said you're taking leadership, so that's covered.
Leadership is really solid.
Anyone taking psychology?
Are we gonna go we're gonna go down the list?
I was just gonna go down the list to make sure somebody takes got every single one, and then once we have that figured out, you'll have leftover points to put wherever it is you feel like putting.
That's awesome. I just want to make a note.
Psychology's next. Who's taking psych?
I had not planned on it, but I could.
I also could. I think it could go.
I threw in the chat the ones that I was planning.
Technically, everybody could. Just the question.
I'll tell you what. I will drop awareness and move that up to psychology.
Okay. All right. Culture. Definitely not Joe or Chuck. We've already started.
I'll take culture.
That makes sense. The socialite would have culture. That makes sense.
Okay. My trade's got culture. Physical.
Yep.
All right. Resolve.
Yep.
Okay. Awareness. We just lost it from Chuck to somebody else. Joe's got it. Okay.
It might overlap.
Yep. All right. Who's taking stealth? Who's taking stealth?
I've got stealth.
I've got stealth
too.
Ooh, all right. Mechanics. Anybody taking mechanics? Joe, you were taking
solid mechanics. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Electronics.
Joe, sorry, I don't have your list stuff. Do you have mechanics?
I don't. No. I threw in the chat on Foundry.
Okay. I did that too.
I was playing.
I don't have that up. Sorry.
Okay.
I've got electronics.
Okay.
Nice. I've got the next 4.
So electronics, computers, biotech, and medicine. Chuck, you got all of those? Okay.
Amazing. I have computers and biotech.
Okay. I mean, there's totally going to be overlap, which is astronomy and planets. Anybody got those?
Yes. Both of those.
All right. So all of those are covered then. So put,
Sweet.
Wherever it is you want, if you have extra. And then we can hit the...
Sounds like we had a lot of people that had stealth too.
Did we go over tactical and operation?
We haven't gotten there yet. We just did the top.
Yeah.
The top ones.
Thank you. Sorry.
No worries. I went back and took psychology. I feel like
reading people and stuff.
Chuck's character and mine are gonna be buddies in things that we try to do together. I think.
Nice.
Yes.
Okay.
I might, because we are loaded down heavy on stealth. I might switch my stealth out, either for something grit or reflex.
I feel like it's probably not a bad thing.
Yeah.
If we can all sneak together.
I've never found stealth to be particularly useful in a role playing game.
And you've never had anything bad happen to you, and someone who isn't stealthy is trying to sneak up behind you when you're stealthing.
I'm dropping stealth and moving up to resolve, because I feel like if I'm going to be ripping people apart to make them better,
you just kind of
having some resolve.
Resolve and biotech are both really useful for Zal, from what I've been looking at.
I'm gonna take resolve as well to lie to people up better.
Right.
Presumably, I will need that.
I'm definitely taking biotech because I can do there's like a body morph thing that Zal does.
Don't worry, I can do that for you.
Is there.
I got you covered.
Yeah.
Sure.
So my 6 are wealth, persuasion, and culture, resolve, awareness, stealth.
Very nice.
Nice.
What does everybody else have?
I got psychology, resolve, electronics, computer, biotech, and medicine.
Sounds good.
Cool.
Got astronomy, computers, biotech, resolve, awareness, electronics.
Nice.
Let's see. I'm at leadership, physical, resolve, awareness, stealth, and mechanics.
Okay. Melissa?
So I'm going to work from the bottom up. I've got planets, astronomy, biotech, which I might drop because it sounds like everybody does biotech, computers, stealth, psychology.
Okay. Very nice. All right. Personal combat is the next 4. So small arms, heavy, tactical, and exotic. You get to put in 2. Some of you might even have a species bonus as well, which is a separate thing. That's just a flat increase. But small arms, heavy, tactical, exotic, definitely probably have a spread. But since there's only 4, there's 5 of you. There's clearly going to be overlap. But
I'm
that
gonna
idea to
take
have
small
tactical
arms
and exotic.
I'm
I don't
taking
think
the
there's
same too, Joe.
bad idea to do anything.
Okay.
And we can take 2, you said.
Mhm.
2.
So I'm gonna take small arms and tactical.
Okay.
Nice. I'll be heavy and tactical. So we've
Jeremy's got heavy.
We
I
are
think
covered on
Twyfar.
tactical.
I think Twyfar have a bonus to heavy too, right, Melissa?
Yeah, so I automatically have a species bonus to heavy.
Okay.
And then I
Nice.
picked exotic, so I might put my other one over in because I was
Just
going to do
remember,
heavy.
If you, like even if you have a species bonus, it doesn't mean you're trained in it. So like if you're looking to eventually go into that weapon, get traits from that weapon, that kind of thing, then you do need to train it. So it makes sense.
Yeah, it sounds like my train might be the only one that has small arms.
Yeah, I don't have anything in it, but it sounds like I'm.
Or like if you want to go more on the like heavy arms and exotic,
Oh,
I
no,
can switch
man.
up. For Melissa, like I could switch up. I could do small arms and heavy arms, and I could just be all the guns. And I'm totally fine
All
being
the
the dude that has
guns.
all the guns.
Jeremy would be
guns.
so good at all
Then
That
I'll
that.
stick-
doesn't bother me at all. Okay, I don't.
Then I'll stick
mind
with heavy
having-
and exotic.
Okay.
Every time Jeremy
Yeah.
gets into combat, like eagles screech, backgrounds
Whoa.
replaced.
What was this thing? What was that coming out of
That
nowhere?
was
Random arm just popping up out of nowhere there.
Sorry, that's
It's my-
corporal.
Getting
I
used to
rented
just the
them.
tentacles coming up out of nowhere.
Contour arms.
Oh,
All right.
Yeah,
man.
I think Chuck and I both have tactical and exotic.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think you're good. I think we're good there. So then the next 4 are for spaceship stuff: command, engineering, operations, gunnery. Same deal. You get 2. And you probably want to spread them around.
Say that again. Come on.
Command, engineering, operations, and gunnery. Those are the 4, and these are all skills related to spaceship operation combat. So you get 2 of them. So you get to pick 2.
And I get
And,
command and engineering from my species.
So you just
Nice.
Oh,
so I'm just going to
definitely.
take. Yeah, that makes sense. Just to continue going with that. Okay.
I get a bonus to gunnery. I would normally do engineering. Nobody has anybody done operations. That sounds
I
like
have
something-
I have a
I have
bonus
operations
to
and engineering.
operations. So
Has anybody done
I'll take operations and I'll take whatever is left over because I don't have any of the bonuses.
So nobody's
Yeah.
done
I don't-
command.
I've got command, and
You
I
got
think
command.
Melissa, you said command.
I think most
Yes,
of the
command and
too.
engineering.
Command and engineering.
So gunnery is the only thing that's left, right? So
I've got
I'll-
gunnery covered. That's my
So-
first.
So let me just read
If
through
it
this
has
really
gun
fast.
in the word, Jeremy's
Yeah.
got
All the
All
guns.
the guns. I'm sorry, I misunderstood. I thought it
So-
was only most of the guns.
All the guns. I think you might have
Obviously-
misheard me. You thought I wanted a lot of guns.
Oh, you did the bacon thing.
Yeah.
So engineering and gunnery are kind of obvious. Engineering is repairing, defending the ship. Gunnery is using the weapons. Command is piloting the ship, coordinating crew, and making use of escort fighters. Operations is knowledge of and ability to manage like technical operations of the ship and make use of warheads. So just so you all know what the descriptions of those things
Yeah.
are. And basically
kind of
in combat, because personal combat and spaceship combat, they're built on the same chassis. These things just give you plus to hit. Like they give you a when you take this bonus, it gives you a plus to hit and whatever if you're using like a weapon with that of that type.
So, given that there are 5 of us here and 4 of these skills, everybody each skill should be covered at least twice, like
Yeah.
a minimum of
Mhm.
twice.
Definitely
Yeah.
should have a backup in each of them pretty easily.
So, mine's operations and gunnery.
and I have engineering and operations.
Okay, so 2 in operations. We know Jeremy's got gunnery. So there's 2 in operations, 2 in gunnery. Chuck and Melissa both have command, I think.
Yeah,
Mhm.
command, and I've got another in operations.
Okay.
Okay.
I
might
could
put
switch
in-
that to engineering.
I'll put one
Yeah,
in
that'd be-
engineering. Because
Okay.
I figure like my guy's already a mechanic too.
Mhm.
So
Okay.
Mhm.
Okay. Engineering and gunnery. So then that sounds like everything has at least 2.
Covered.
Yep.
Yeah.
Good to go. All right. Skills are
Good
done.
call, my Trey.
Skills are
Trey?
done.
Oh,
right.
awesome. Yeah,
Good
that's
call. Working that
thank
out.
you. That's the level of math I'm capable of, and now I'm
Yeah.
done. That's all I can do.
I thought as a corp and a capitalist, you're very good at counting.
No, I'm very good at paying someone else to count.
That's the true secret of capitalism.
Delegation.
All right. Let's talk about traits. So just to keep things simple, you get one right now, but every level you'll get another. And there's different categories of traits. We've already kind of talked about it. So there's like resource traits, influence traits, attribute traits, skills traits, that kind of stuff. So there's different categories of traits. But right now you get one. And the game basically recommends that you pick something that is essentially what your person is, like what you mainly do. So Chuck, you want to be a doctor, pick something that's medicine related, right? Jeremy, you're a big mercenary dude with all the guns. You know,
I've already picked it.
Right. Oh yeah. Okay, well, that makes this easy. What do you got?
Perseverance. Gives me bonus to stealth, to mechanics. It makes my recovery better. And if I ever get a strong hit, I automatically get a recovery. So he's just this big, mean bastard that stays in the fight.
You're basically you're the tank. You're like the endurance tank up front. Nice. Okay, and you just get the one. And we have 2 weeks before we're playing our first session. So this is every other week show. So if you could take one now, and if you decide that you want to keep reading because there are a lot of them, you can go. You can obviously go through and make a change. One of the things I was doing when I was making some characters is I was just kind of looking at I was looking at requirements. And so if I was making like a Palantir, I would just peek at the ones that were specific to Palantir, because if I wanted to really lean into that as my species or something like that. So there's a lot of different ways to go. So it's easy to fall down the rabbit hole and just keep breeding them. So just kind of focus on whatever it is your main thing is right now. That could be like looking at a skill that you think you're going to use a bunch, go to the list in the back and look at that skill's traits. You've got it trained, look at that skill's traits, or maybe an attribute that you think you're going to use a lot, go take a look at that attribute, that kind of thing. So something just to kind of get you there. And don't forget, you'll have the opportunity to, switch out. All right. Anybody have one in mind other than Jeremy? All right, Chuck, where's that? Oh my God. Other hand.
All right. Where does it come from?
I don't know.
Where does it go? I was looking at taking Meat Maestro.
Okay.
What?
I mean, it sounds amazing.
Oh God.
That's what drew me to it.
Oh.
Requirements: Vivimancer, Nephilim. I am one of those. I get +1 to physical and biotech. And for Aura 1, the prep action grants all allies +1 armor until your next turn.
Very nice. Very, very nice. Prep is an action you'll probably take. You all probably take relatively regularly in combat as well.
Okay.
There's a couple different things you can do within prep, because prep is it's not just like one thing. There's a couple things you can choose from it. So very nice. What's that under?
That's under medicine.
Okay. I'm just gonna.
And I do have the medicine skill.
All right.
PDF's 160.
Thank you. I don't know how to count. I didn't make it this far in life. Okay. So Vivimancer, Methylene. Awesome. Okay. Fantastic.
How many
anybody
of these are you allowed to have?
One right now.
One.
You get one every level, basically.
Okay. Thank you.
And we'll sort of figure out because we play 2-hour streams, we'll figure out our leveling up pattern, but book, if rules is written, it's like every three sessions, kind of think about getting a level or so, which is we'll probably stick pretty close to that, I think, barring some shenanigans.
Gotcha.
All right. Anybody else? Yeah, that's a good point. Another again, there's certain types of traits, and most of them you can only take one trait in that area. So if like if you're taking your medicine skill trait, or if you're taking your like, that's it. Like you can't take another one. You can't take you can't like 2 strength, but out, like the different areas, there are plenty of combos outside. Like you don't have to just worry about within. All right.
What I was looking at was Philosopher.
Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, sorry.
No, so uncultured.
I know.
My
So
bad.
That fucking guy.
Go right ahead, Joe. You know, we're going to try to get you to be quiet, but you won't. No, go ahead, man. What do you got?
My bad.
You're totally
Philosopher.
Okay.
That was what I was looking at.
All right. What's that under?
It's under psychology.
All right.
It was one of the recommended traits if you're the Chrome Zal. And it gives you +1 to resolve in biotech, which I need both of those. And it gives me a free research acquisition roll every session.
Very nice. And then the disadvantage to that is it's 1 knowledge to retro this trait. So basically, we talked about retro before. Like when you level up, you can switch some stuff out. In this case, it's going to cost you to do so. It's not a free retro. So, okay, right on, man.
Yep.
Okay, I like it very much. All right. My trait. Did you have one in mind?
I was thinking of Jack of all trades, which is under culture.
Yeah, that makes sense. It makes sense that the uncultured person would interrupt the cultured person. Amazing. Okay. I should have mentioned this before. I apologize. But like on the left-hand side, you see how a lot of these have icons to them that kind of, some of them are more story oriented. Some of them are simpler, like the Jack of all trades, the one with like the little die that makes just a little simpler. And so it's like a quick way of us, knowing whether or not how complicated this particular.
I really like those icons.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah.
I assume, Joe, you're ignoring all of the simple ones.
Yeah. I see the books and I go for all of
You go right. All right. So Jack of all trades +1 to persuasion and leadership. You reduce all untrade skill roll penalties by 1. Normally -2. I love that. I love that type of skill. I remember playing Traveler and getting ranks in Jack of all trades as a skill was pretty awesome.
Oh, it's awesome.
Yeah.
I like being like a balanced character.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, I agree because I feel like most socialites / influencers, who do like we really do have a very broad skill set, right?
Absolutely. I saw a pretty hilarious tweet or something the other day that was like, nobody is allowed to have imposter syndrome anymore because we live in a world that allows Ben Shapiro to style himself as a genius. So I think that's the vibe I'm gonna go for. Is convinced I am good because 4 million people listen to me, so I must be good.
Fantastic. Melissa, I think you're the last one. Did you make a decision?
So, and I'm actually speaking to what you were saying. There's kind of 2 choices that I think I might go with because this is kind of in the setting that kind of connects to Nephilim. The easy mode one is well traveled, which I think is cool because it gives +1 to 3 different skills that you're not getting a species bonus in. So basically just kind of helping with that kind of initial character creation stuff. Disadvantage is you have to do -1 to a skill. So it's kind of a 3-for-1 trade. The other one that I was thinking about, but I could see it potentially being something that I've got to keep track of and might forget about is Studious, which connects to intelligence, which has some very cool benefits. But also like if you don't like learn something every couple of days, then you kind of like lose some stuff. So it's kind of that like insatiable thirst for knowledge, which I think is very cool.
I love that.
But I know myself and I'll probably lose track of that. And so it's better if I do well traveled and just know I got my skill bonuses and I don't have to worry about
that's cool as shit though. That's a cool concept.
Yeah, I definitely liked the vibe of Studious for sure.
You should take it though.
I think you'd be good at it, man. I think you'd be better at it than you think you were.
I have to go back and find it again.
Okay,
Thank you.
You've got 2 weeks to finalize.
Support.
You have 2 weeks to finalize, so think about it some more. Take a look at it. But I was actually looking at studios yesterday for one of the sample characters I was making. So,
and it might be something else that I was thinking that isn't studious. It might be something else that has the negative that I have anyway. So with studious, you may perform one free networking research or modification acquisition role per session. So maybe I will stick with studious.
Okay,
but well traveled seems like a cool option for. Kind of an easy way to kind of boost some stuff early on.
And don't forget to so you got a minimum. You have your int of 3. That's one of the requirements, but it also has 1 knowledge. So make sure you're assigning 1 knowledge. For the rest of you, if you happen to take a trait that had a requirement like that, like a 1 KN, that's knowledge. There is a little section on your character sheet where you can denote that. If that I didn't see it on anyone else's when we were scanning around, but I can double check later.
We all start with 3, I think, right?
3, yeah, unless you got something else from somewhere. By default, it should be, I think all of you basically start with 5 spare time points and 3 knowledge, which should be kind of on your sheet, unless there was something that you got or took that kind of messed with it. All right, so that is your trait. Next, we get to complications. Depending on your choice of species, you might already have some, but this is separate from it. This is in addition to it. So basically, there's a list of complications in the back, but there's also drive complications. So drive complications is something you might also look at as well. So complications, the full list is on. Hang on. Is on page like 146 of the PDF. Yeah, 146 of the PDF. So you can see things like addiction, obsession, different conditions, like a psychological condition or a physical condition, or dependent PC, or guilt, or you're being hunted. Inner fire, which Legion, that's for Legion specifically, which Jeremy should already have. Moral code, observed, prejudices. Many of you already have prejudices against you. Reputation, unwanted ancestral memories. That's specifically for Kaltorin, Nephilim emissary, or Joe. It would work for you as a Zao. Chuck, since you're going, it sounded like you're going more tenebrous, I think. So I don't think that would apply to you, since I don't think you're the emissary.
Yes.
Emissary is like the humanoid looking version.
Oh, yes. No, I am all squiggly over here.
and then the drive complications. So there's other complications on page, where am I? Page 32. So you can see they kind of go into them a little bit more. In a little bit greater detail. So you can kind of see the things you can potentially get.
Either a complication or a drive, or complication, or one of each?
So a character can have a maximum of 1 drive complication. So you're welcome to take one. You're welcome to take that right now. You will be getting more complications as the game progresses. I think it's like every 5 levels or something like that, you get a new complication. But if you want to take your drive complication now, I'm down for that. Some of them, if you read the description, are like they might fit your character type or your species. Like Melissa, for instance, your Twyfar discovery is one of the drive complications. So you're driven to uncover secrets and break new intellectual ground. So you can, it's very common for Twyfar.
I'm actually going to interrupt here just to correct myself, because what I was just saying earlier was actually this drive complication. So I was getting the things confused in my head. Gotcha. So the trait that I took of studious is not the thing that has the negative. Studious is very cool. It does very good things because it's a cool trait. But yeah, so this was the complication that I was going to go with, which is discovery. Is that like if you don't get research in 2 sessions, like you get a point of damage to a random attribute. But then good things happen, like when you gain knowledge, you gain a grit reroll. And if you discover a great secret, you get a free spare time point. So all about the intellectual knowledge.
I would certainly encourage you all to take a drive complication at level 1. Yeah. Might help me craft some scenarios to make sure they're specific to you. But if there's something you like in the regular one, then that's cool too. Got something, Chuck?
It seems like
I do.
Oh.
No, go ahead, Joe. What are you gonna say?
Quiet, Joe.
Poor Joe.
The only thing I was going to add was that it seems like the drive complications are good because they all have like risk reward kind of like you can get stuff out of them. And then the normal complications are less inhibiting, but you don't get anything out of them. They're just a flat minus.
Well said. Chuck.
Nice.
So there was a lot of types of complications thrown out there. So I'm hoping this is actually a complication I can take. I want to take the collector complication.
Yeah, that's a drive complication.
Nice.
Oh no.
Oh God.
You like to collect rare objects of a particular type. Archaeologists, gallery owners, bounty hunters, and the like may have this drive, but it sounds like Chuck has something else in mind that he's going to be collecting.
Spare parts.
Spare parts. Okay. Sure.
Whenever you work on someone, there's always extra parts. I like to keep those.
About your healer.
You put that computer together, there's
rare.
like a few screws on the table still.
They got to be rare. So it's not just some random corpse toes. You have to get like some creature.
Someone cool.
Yeah. Something. You got to hunt out special creatures.
Look at that dude. He's super strong. I should take his biceps.
Okay. Chuck to collector. Fantastic. Anybody else have a complication in mind?
I think so. I had an idea before I saw the drive ones, and I feel like I want to do a drive one first.
Nice.
I was initially tempted to be like the big, tough, all the guns guy, and then have a kid, have the dependent, which would be fun. Like he's trying to teach his kid to also be a little warrior.
Okay.
You could have that kid's ghost be possessing one of your weapons.
I refuse to have a child around Chuck's character, so instead I'm going to have tenacity.
Good thinking. Good thinking.
It's amazing how many years it took us to learn that. Okay. Tenacity, once you set your mind to something, you rarely give it up. Things of value only come through great sacrifice and endurance. Reformists, dedicated charity workers, war veterans, explorers, and the like may have this drive. Fantastic. All right. Anybody else got an idea?
I'm doing the rule keeper.
Yeah,
it fits.
That suits you so amazingly well.
I love that.
You live by a set of rules. These may be strict religious texts, traditions, or a personal moral code. Priests, police, elderly people, legion soldiers, and the like may have this drive. Okay. All right.
Mm-hmm. I like the you get +1 to all things when obeying your moral code.
Gotcha.
So the code I wrote up, I was working on this earlier today, was fitting into the Zao thing. So their code is all about like balance and sustainability. So it's like consume without depletion, wasting injustice, and cull everything that cannot sustain.
Good. I love it.
So that's
we've talked about Zao before because it's like it's like I love that species so much. Like it's
they're really cool. They're so interesting. I liked all of them as I was reading through. The Zao like jumped out more than all of them to me.
For sure. Okay. I think Maitre, you're the only one left.
I've been trying to decide. You guys can help me figure out like what would be fun.
Okay.
Puppet Master, proselytizer. Thank you. That one.
They don't
probably
have that word
not
in
that
Canada.
one because they can't say that word.
You should take it just for that.
So not. David. Monument or pup. Not already said pup master. So pup master, proselytizer, whatever the fuck, however you say that word, or monument.
Monument. Okay, monument. So monument, you strive to create something bigger than yourself. Inventors, entrepreneurs, corp CEOs, and the like may have this drive.
They all feel like different versions of each other to me.
Okay. So yeah, monument's about making progress towards whatever like your lasting monument is, like a Twitch channel or something. Proselytizer. All being street preachers, revolutionaries, ideologues, corp PR agents, and the like may have this drive. That one seems less about building something and more just about convincing people to come in. So I think that's the slight distinction.
Yeah.
And then Puppet Master, you seek to secretly control other people's choices. Your actions may be self-serving, or you may believe that other people don't know what's best for them. Con artists, salesmen, leaders, Nephilim, genocrats, and the like may have this drive. Yeah,
that one might be the most fun.
I do want to put out there that it would be really awesome if you took Puppet Master, because every time you mention it, I would get to think about the Yo Gabba Gabba episode with Elijah Woods, where he did the Puppet Master dance.
I'll take Puppet Master just to make Chuck happy.
There you go.
Thank you.
Bam. Okay.
And also because I think that's what I would have gone with anyway. But if anyone asks, it's for
That's
Chuck.
why. Thank you. I mean, I named my character for you, so it fits.
Well, there we go. That I feel like I need to apologize for.
It hasn't even been revealed yet, but nice little tease there.
All right. So let's see. What did we just finish? That was complications. So next we got some substat stuff. Some of it's going to be auto calculated for you. You got your resources and influence. So generally speaking, resources are kind of an abstraction in some way, sort of defining like your combination of like wealth, access, that you have to essentially get things. It also could be things. So it's the idea of like what you're using to get items and stuff like that, and to some degree, right? Influence is like for your spaceship. Resources is for yourself. So at the start, you have a starting recurring value of your level +2. Some of you might have a species thing that might change it. So my tray, I think you have a bonus to yours. So all of you should basically have 3. My tray, you should have more. The maximum value right now is your level +3. So do the calculation. Influence, we're not going to worry about tonight. We'll do the spaceship stuff, kind of probably in Discord or something offline. Spare time points in knowledge are okay. So spare time points in knowledge in some ways are kind of like how you quantify like your downtime, like what you're investing your time and your energy in trying to do, like in between scenarios and stuff like that. So if you're like going to purchase something, for instance, like if you want to go buy a new weapon, like you make an acquire roll and you probably spend a spare time point. And that's really just to kind of describe that it took you this amount of resources, this amount of time, this amount of effort, et cetera, to go get something. Knowledge is kind of similar, except it's more about learning something, right? Spare time points, it's abstracted, so it's not just purchasing something. It could also be building something. It's like instead of buying a weapon, you're building it yourself, but you're still spending the spare time to do it. It's like it's trying to quantify your time in some way. So you have a starting spare time points of level +4, so you all should be at 5. And you have starting knowledge of 3. Some of you might have already got a penalty or a bonus or something to it. So there's a box in the character sheet where you can delineate or sort of note where that's gone. That makes sense.
Yep, already had to spend a knowledge for one of my choices.
Okay. Any questions on that? Spare time points and knowledge and stuff like that. Okay.
How often do you get to attempt those?
Which ones?
Like when you're making an acquisition roll or like a research roll, what's kind of like, how often are you doing that usually? Is it like once per session or like? I think it's gonna, for us, we have 40, we have our 40-minute sessions and things like that. So it's gonna sort of be more based upon like what kind of access we have and sort of to delineate downtime and things like that. So in chat, just to throw this out there, you gain 1 spare time point per session by default in terms of gaining. I would say, Joe, don't expect to do one every session, probably, unless you have a specific trait or something like Melissa was looking at with like research roles, networking roles. But in I have general, one for the knowledge. Like in general, it'll be a couple sessions probably before we hit a downtime session. And so I'm probably going to like pace the campaign in that where we have a couple sessions of play and maybe like a half or a full session of downtime, like my tray, Melissa, not unlike what we do with like fellowship phase when we play our One Ring game and stuff, where we just really kind of get into the downtime phase of it. Obviously,
situations might change if like you guys are doing a scenario on a space station or something. You might have more access to stuff like that. So like we'll play it by ear, but just generally think of it in those terms. Okay. So
when
go ahead.
It's so like it'll say like for the research it says 12T. Is that saying like you're spending? It's like a DC of 12, and you have to spend 1T to
exactly
do it?
Correct. T, that lowercase t stands for a spare time point, and KN stands for knowledge. So if something says 12T, you have to make an acquire roll. The difficulty is the 12, and this T is the spare time point. During character creation, you don't have to do the acquire rolls for anything that's 14T or less. So you don't have to worry about that now. But in the future, as the campaign progresses, if you're trying to get like really good items and stuff, like you might have to actually do the rolls then. Knowledge is the same thing. Okay. Like you're committing it, and so like you can kind of track your spare time, and like you'll accrue spare time as the game progresses. So, okay, all right, we good with that? Any other questions on that one? All right. Substats, all of this, I think most of these should be auto-filled if you're using the PDF. So equipment slots are equal to 6 plus your strength. Grit rerolls is equal to your grit. Defense is 10 plus your reflexes, which is, I think it's on the top of the second page of the PDF. Endurance is equal to 10 plus your strength times 5. Armor is going to be your outfit stat. We'll get to that shortly. Your munitions are 3. Munitions is again kind of like an all-purpose abstraction of like ammo in a weapon, but also for even weapons that don't necessarily have ammunition can use munitions as like a sort of like a trigger for certain powers and certain like benefits stuff that you do, like these munition abilities and things like that. We'll cover that when we start doing combat. Recovery is equal to your grit. Combat order is equal to your intelligence. So all of that's there. Equipment. The way equipment works is like you have a certain number of slots. Your items, anything that you're not carrying in your hand, or in terms of if you're wearing your outfit, it doesn't count towards your equipment slots. And if you're carrying something in your hand, it doesn't count towards your equipment slots. But everything else will. Most everything is 2. But then there's like, if you have a large item, it's 3. If you have like a small item, it's 1. If you have a tiny item, it can all be on the same line. It's a lot. It's fairly similar to like Free League, for instance, for like a lot of the Free League games that we've played in the past, and that the way it delineates it. And anything that's super small, like a flashlight or whatever, you can kind of put all on one line and not worry about it to take up too much. I will check your character sheets to make sure you're cool with this. You probably want to have at least a couple of you with some space, because if you get like loot resources and stuff, you need to carry them. So like some of that stuff you might have to carry, and so you want to make sure you have some space for it as we go. So let's get into then filling up some of that equipment, because we're going to do weapons, outfit, and utility. And then we'll do some final questions for the party, and then we'll probably get out of here. So at the start of the game, you get 1 to 3 weapons. I said this to you beforehand, like the game is extremely flexible with how like letting you essentially customize your weapons, and you can do all sorts of amazing things. There's a whole process for it. You pick your type, you pick various modifications and variations on it, and as long as you can afford it with like your resources costs and stuff like that, then great. Resources is somewhat like a loadout, if you want to think about it. Like you have X amount of resources to fit yourself with those kinds of items, and so there are limitations. But there are pre-made weapons. And so I would say for now, like for the stream, it might be a good idea to just pick a pre-made weapon. And then if you really want to dig into the custom weaponry, like you could do that between now and next time, or I can help you with it as well, because I was kind of going into it pretty in depth over the weekend. So I would suggest that. Now,
yes,
that's my suggestion. You don't have to follow that suggestion, obviously. Now there are some other little things. Some weapons, you're going to see a lot of weapons have like little keywords and stuff like that at the bottom. Mm-hmm. One of those might be sidearm. Now, there's also going to be a resource cost. Sidearms, like you basically get one of those for like a discount. Mm-hmm. So if you have like a side pistol that's got from the graph, from the list that costs like 1 resource, you get a discount of 1. So it's basically free. So those are things you might be able to look at. Now, if you're making stuff, or even if you're buying, you're grabbing stuff like pre-made, you still have to pay the cost. So there's acquire and there's resource. When it comes to acquire, if there's a T, that means you're spending a spare time point. Okay. Anything at 14 T or under, you can just get without having to roll a check for it. If you try to do anything higher, you have to make a roll for it. And then obviously they also have a resource cost. So that's a lot. So let me walk us through like a weapon, just so like we kind of know how this works. So I'm on page 167 in the PDF. These are example pre-made weapons, just to sort of walk you through how this works. So let's take a look at the Little Nipper, which is a pistol. It's a small arm. So if you're trained in small arms, this would be great for you. Hit dice is how many dice you roll to hit. So like you roll 3d6s when you go to roll to see if you hit. Hit is a flat bonus. So you take 3d6 and you add your hit, and there's other things you're going to add. Range is what you think it is. We'll worry about how range actually works once we start doing combat, but obviously the higher the better, higher the furthest away. Endurance damage is how much damage you do to the person's endurance. Critical damage is how much damage you do. The game does recommend to have at least one, maybe two people that have a weapon that can do 4 crit damage because of the way the game balances out. And then you can see there's like weapon types there. But pay attention all the way to the right. There's 2 columns, one for acquire and one for resources. Acquire, it says 9T. If you wanted a Little Nipper, you can take it without having to roll for it. You just get it. You do have to dedicate one of your spare time points to it, though. It also says resources. Normally, this would cost 1 resource, but because it has the sidearm characteristic, you get a discount of -1 because you get 1 sidearm for a discount. So you can essentially get this for the cost of one measly spare time point. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Weapons take a second. They took me a second to kind of like wrap my head around, but it's starting to make more sense for me.
I'm still in that second.
I want the heavy barb splitter.
Let's take a look at it. Heavy barb splitter. It's a heavy arm. So if you've got that, so Jeremy, you got heavy arms. That's perfect.
Yes.
It's a blaster, so it's kind of telling you kind of what it is. The hit dice is 2d6, so you're rolling 2d6 to hit, but you get a flat +5 from the item to your roll. Yeah. It's got a range of 3. It does, for endurance damage, it does 4 plus whatever your focus is, whatever your focus score is. It has that crit damage of 4 that we were talking about. So there's one of the weapons, that we would want. It tells you what the weapon damage is: a shell, arc demo charge, and then it's got acquire 12T. So you don't have to make a roll to get this, but you do have to dedicate a spare time point to it.
Yeah.
Then it says resources.
Demo charge shells.
Yeah,
good.
And it's got pierce too, which is nice. Yeah. And then it's got 2 resources at the end. So you have to take 2 of the resources that you have on your character sheet are now devoted to your heavy barb splitter. It's not like cash where you spend it and it disappears forever. Like if you decide to trade out your splitter at some point, those resources kind of come back to you. That's why I say it's kind of like a loadout. It's sort of like managing how much you can load out at one point. Does that make sense?
Oh yeah. Yeah, I'm definitely taking that.
Perfect.
It's Rhonda.
Favorite. And you're totally welcome to reflavor it, call it something else, describe it however it is. Like the game encourages you to do that. So if there's something that you like, describe it however you want. The stats are still the stats, but describe it however you want.
I'm considering the Apollo AR.
Oh, that one looks good too.
Yeah, which is just a few above the one Jeremy was looking at.
Gotcha. Small arm. Okay. So it's a small arm. Got a lot of hit dice, 5d6. Has a hit of 0. So you get the roll 5d6s when you go to hit somebody, which is a lot of dice, but you don't get like any flat bonus. It has a 4 range, which is very good. Endurance damage 2 plus your focus. It has that 4 crit damage as well. So both you and Jeremy actually are hitting that one of those things it recommends. Yeah. The acquire is 14T. You still don't have to make a roll since it's at 14. You have to dedicate a spare time point. It costs 3 resources. Now, by default, I think people have
4.
You have 4. because you're
I
a
have
corp.
4.
So you still
You're
have one to play
special.
with. So awesome. Awesome.
Sweet.
Take it.
Sweet.
All right. Anybody else have an idea?
I know what I want, but it'll be having to slap it together later. So I'm looking at 2 weapons. I know the thought. The first is going to be like a laser scalpel. I'm fixing people, removing parts. Need to have something like that. And the other one, I want a tentacle spike chain, just like a little spike chain attached to one of my tentacles, and I could just spin around like a tentacle top.
Okay.
What are
Like-
your weapon skills? What did you take for personal combat?
Exotic and command. So
Okay,
I would imagine
exotic's
these are
perfect.
yeah.
For the so exotic, you can get certain modifications. Because exotic is basically a melee, and it sounds like that chain thing could be something like a flail or a
What's
whip.
your
'cause there
second
is a
weapon
whip.
though? You said a space combat. Exotic, and what's your other weapon one?
Scalpel,
Tactical. I don't
Tactical.
plan on
Okay. You said
doing
command.
anything
I was like,
like
that's not a
exotic's
weapon.
Oh, did I?
type.
My bad. My bad.
Okay, like I can, if you want, we don't do it right now. We can do it a different time, but like we can build that stuff out. But there is like a whip that you can probably reflavor as the chain thing that you're talking about. I'll have to dig in for the scalpel more, but it sounds like and it would probably fall under exotic, so I think it should fit for you.
Okay.
All right.
The 2 I'm thinking, I think, because I've got tactical and exotic. For tactical, I'm looking at the prototype canister.
Okay.
Because I was thinking I want like a fire retardant type thing, because the only things I are scared of is fire.
Mhm.
So I was picturing
That's
like
awesome.
some sort of canister launcher it's meant to be like a fire extinguisher, but I'm using it as like also combat. It's more like it can deal damage if it explodes on people, but it can also be kind of like terrain control, blocks things.
Cool.
Have you dug into making them yourself yet? Have you messed around with it at all?
Not yet. I've read everything until the weapons section. Below that, I don't.
I can
know
give you a
much
hand
about
with it.
anything
Yeah,
in there.
Melissa and I were messing with it a bunch yesterday, so I can give you a hand with it
Cool.
to get something that you would want.
Yeah, so that's what I want to do. And then for the exotic, I was picturing like because my character is like the Zao robot kind of chrome thing, and he's got a bunch of like organs that are computers and things. So he has like a cyberpunk type cable thing that he plugs into stuff, and I was thinking he also has that as like a weapon. It's like a taser that
That's
just
cool
shoots
as
out.
hell.
What would probably make sense for both you and for Chuck is trying to figure out a way to build one of your 2 weapons as a sidearm to keep the resource cost down, so that you can still get a decent outfit and
the
stuff.
canister counts as a sidearm.
Yeah, because
the prototype
sidearm
canister.
isn't just a gun. Like you can get a variety of weapons with a sidearm tag. Okay.
Can you have more than one sidearm?
Only
only get the
one of
discount
them gets
once.
the discount.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
All right.
I'm not
So the whatever
be
the
trying to fight too
fire
much
canister
anyway.
means.
Okay. Yeah, I can help you with that for sure, because that should be a tactical weapon more than likely, the canister one, because it'll be shell. Probably be
Yeah, the prototype canister looks like it's kind of close to what I want, and it counts as a sidearm in the weapons thing.
Okay.
I don't see what I know it would be exotic for like the taser thing, but I don't know.
There's a
if
shock
there's
stick,
one there.
so you would probably build it off of the shock stick, like that. You would probably use that as a. I would think. Okay.
Yeah, like a short range.
Yeah, it's a shock stick is a melee variation. So like you would take like probably a cheap base, and then we'd add like a different variation. Okay.
Okay.
From chat, there is a trait thrifty that lets you take multiple sidearms with the discount.
There you go.
Ooh.
The man himself. All right. So again, I really think take your time with weapons. I don't need your answers right now. I don't need your answers right now because there is a
grenades
lot.
can be sidearms.
Yes, they can. Yeah.
Well, there you
The what
go.
can?
Dude,
Problem solved.
I was trying to build, and I wasn't doing a level 1. I was trying to build a little Palantir family with like those little mini robot me family versions of himself that all just ran around and threw grenades at people. That's what I was trying to build. So it's so much fun. There's all sorts of weird things you can make. Like you don't have to. Like, you can just take the gun and shoot. It's great, but there's like so many like the way you can combo some of these things. You could get some really bizarre weapons. It's so much fun. Okay. So let's not get hung up on weapons too much. If you have something that you picked and you're happy with, just put it down, mark your resources, mark your spare time points. And so you know what you're working with, because outfit is the next thing. So outfit is effectively armor, basically, if you want to think about it in those terms. It gives you a defense score, but it also gives you a bunch of other things potentially. It's just like weapons in terms of like you can build it from scratch, or you can take some of the pre-mades. The pre-mades are on page 175. And again, these do have some of these do have resource costs. So a flight suit and a shielded tie are both 0 resources, but the other ones in the pre-mades they do have a resource cost. So for those of you who are a little, not like Maitre, you don't have a ton of extra court money, be careful, where you're at here with this. So, and you can see that some of them they have different stats and stuff. So I would recommend, again, just picking one of those, picking a pre-made for now, and then we can always revisit that later and kind of customize it for your character.
A's body glove tactical suit.
Okay.
Because it's free.
It is.
What do you got, Chuck?
It's one. Hayes body glove tactical suit is 1.
It's 1 resource, but because it's
12T, yeah. Like
it's 12T, so
all you're doing is spending spare time points. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah.
I think the only one you would have to make a roll for is the mech suit. Everything else, I think, is you don't have to do rolls for. What you got, Chuck?
Shielded tie.
That a boy.
Of course.
I was gonna go naked. I just want to be like I'm just a ball of tentacles with like some bits of face floating in there. I'm like, put a tie on it, make it look professional. I'm a doctor, damn it.
Gotcha. Okay. So yeah,
do the Praetorian assault suit.
Praetorian assault suit gives you more endurance, gives you extra armor. So by the way, there's a category in the outfits that says at 0 endurance. So sometimes at 0 endurance, certain things will trigger. So if you get reduced to 0, it might make it worse, might make it better. Like there's things that can happen when you get to 0 endurance. Otherwise, everything else I think is pretty straightforward. Bonuses to endurance, common. Bonuses to armor. Bonuses to defense. Defense is to hit is like what they have to roll to hit you. So it's going to affect
your reflexes plus 10. And
exactly. Then that. And so that's what my dudes would have to roll to hit you. Armor is a flat reduction from critical hits, like attribute damage and stuff like that. It's not so much endurance, but it's for attribute damage.
Okay.
I'm gonna take Haze Mesh with the well-maintained mod.
Nice. So it's going to cost 1 spare time point and 1 resource from you.
Miss Corporation with all her money gets the upgrades on
one money. One money.
You are decked out. You've got that tactical suit. You've got your big old weapon. That's 4 resources. You're good. You could probably find a sidearm for free. You could probably get a sidearm for free.
I'm just gonna throw Jeremy at them.
Well, maintained is pretty awesome. Actually.
I mean, this is what corporations and other organizations do. You find your soldier, you throw him out there.
Pretty much.
I'm not sure what it would be for mine, but I'm picturing like a scientist lab coat, but it's made out of like what firefighters wear because it's fire resistant. So a little bit heavier.
Kind of. A little bit.
Yeah. I'm not sure.
Okay. One of the things what I'll do is like when you all send me your character sheets and stuff and for those of you where we're going to customize your weapons, some of the other things that we should look at are this is advice from the book to have, we got the 4 crit damage. We have a couple people that can do that, which is great. but also having people who can do high endurance damage with a weapon and who might be able to deal splash, because splash will deal with like minions and things like that too. So we'll look to see if, for those of you who haven't locked in on that. We don't really need to worry about it now, but locked on, there's ways that a party can kind of build and synergize with that trait, but we'll worry about that later. You don't got to worry about right this second. Okay. All right. So the next thing is a utility. So we've done weapons, we've done outfit. Utility is basically just like, they're just like extra items that can do cool shit. Like that's basically what they are. And there's a bunch of different categories. You can only have one kind of utility per category. By default, you should get one at character creation, but there's ways that might have changed depending on what you picked or here and there. I think Palantir, for instance, get a second one, but one kind. So like, for instance, as the game progresses, you can't have like 2 utilities from the shield category. There might be a trait that changes that, but like by default, that's the rule. But you get one for free at character creation. And there's lots of different ones that you can do.
Got it narrowed down. I'm going to do medicine.
Okay.
I don't know which one I want. There's bio.
You're just picking all of them?
I just want all of them.
Yeah.
But there's bio reconstructor. Super cool.
Okay.
Euthanation kit.
Why did I laugh at that? That's weird. Why did I just so instinctively laugh at that? What does that say about me?
Because Chuck is saying it. So there's
everything I say is funny. Or flesh rejuvenator.
Okay, that's just objectively funny.
It is. I don't know which one I want. It's going to be either bio reconstructor or flesh rejuvenator.
So the other thing is,
but then there's also the stims that if you're looking to like help people, it's the fuzz plug or a hit of haste or a puff of clear or a can of draz or a dose of fade. If you want to like help us.
Yeah. The other thing is
stuff I was looking at does.
The other thing is some of these, by the way, if you look in the notes, we'll note that they are a toolbox of some kind. Toolboxes can be used to get bonuses on associated skill rolls. So if something is like a medicine toolbox and you use it when you have it with you and when you're rolling a medicine, you can actually get a toolbox bonus from it. And there's toolboxes basically for everything. So
yeah, with that,
my tray. Did you see
the
flesh rejuvenator? Sounds like a you kind of thing, Chuck.
It does.
Sorry for talking over you. My tray. There's emissary pheromones that are small and count as a persuasion toolbox.
Why?
Where?
Under stims.
No, I did not see that.
So
second section.
One resources though. I'm all out of resources.
Oh, that's a shame.
Well, you could have had the pheromones, but you wanted the big gun and you wanted the special suit.
God, just the jealousy.
Which one's sexier? Is pheromone sexier or haze mesh suit sexier?
Don't know how to answer that.
Damn it, I thought you were a scientist, Chuck.
I mean, they both have their merits. Like a mesh suit. Okay. Pheromones. I think the mesh suit is more upfront about it. And the pheromones is more like mesh suit's how you get your sugar daddy, and the pheromones is how you keep them.
Of course.
Teamwork.
Okay, so my next resource can be spent on the pheromones.
Okay. You could still get one right now for free from something else because there's plenty.
Yeah,
of these
I think I need to take some random look at this because there's
don't worry about that right now. Yeah,
I'll add mine later if the people have already picked. That's great.
Jeremy, did you just notice the bots category? You have somebody giving coins out to people.
I'm helping.
Oh,
there's a bots There's a bots category.
Oh my god!
It's a companion. Yeah.
Oh, I'm so happy about that.
All right. Buddy.
So let's see. Where are we? I think let's shore up all this item stuff between because I do think some of this there's a lot to look at. There's so many things you can choose from.
So much cool stuff.
So I want to do like a couple quick questions for you all, and then we'll leave. And so this is just like, this is not necessarily from the book. This is just for me as we kind of get set up. So this is just a couple tiny character crew building questions that I'm just kind of curious about. And we'll do these just kind of in order. And I've totally stole this from people. So Joe, you're up first. I would like you to tell me something what went wrong on we're going to start the game with you all already knowing each other. You're already part of a crew. We're not going to do any awkward introductions. We're just boom, you're together. Okay. Joe, what went wrong on your most recent job? You can speak vaguely and I can try to make it setting specific. It's fine. So like, don't worry if you're not sure how to answer.
We didn't rescue everyone alive.
Okay, had some casualties. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Maitre, question for you all. What is one good rumor about your group, or maybe somebody within the group, that is true? It's a good rumor, and it's actually a true rumor.
That's true.
Yeah. Something people say about you guys, or at least some of you, or something like that.
Right. The ship has a really interesting botanical garden, and that actually really benefits the air purification filters. So the air quality and the general health of everybody on the crew is pretty pretty awesome, considering we have to spend so much time in an enclosed place.
Love it. Okay, we'll see how much that's going to cost you when I build your guys' spaceship. Chuck, what is one? Again, it's a good rumor. It's like a good thing about you all, except this one's false. It's not true.
That we have on our ship like one of the strongest shields, and it's almost impossible for someone to take us out in a fight because we're just so well defended. But we're not. We're made out of like tinfoil and tissue paper over here.
And just willpower and conviction the whole way.
Willpower and good vibes.
So the rumor is that you have like really strong shields or something like that, but that's
something like that.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Got it. All right, Melissa, what is one bad rumor about your group that is true? I like how this ended up with Melissa.
I know, right? And I was paying attention to chat and I wasn't even listening to what Chuck said. So Chuck, what did you say?
I said people think we got good shields on our ship and we have reverse good shields on our ship.
Oh, okay. And so now I'm coming up with something that is something negative that is true.
That is true. Yeah, it's a bad rumor about your group, and it's true.
We think we're better than other people.
Okay.
Oh, that sounds true.
I know.
We are.
But it's not
my character definitely does.
But it's
so you think you're better than people and you are better than people. Okay.
So
like but kind of in that like,
and when people meet us, we are pretentious.
You know the crew of those people. They're such pretentious jerk faces.
Okay, got it.
Yes, we are pretentious jerk faces.
Perfect.
Well, now I'm definitely adding the fashionable thing to my armor.
That's why I got a tie on.
Slots do we get? Or equipment slots?
Utility
no, I get it.
was one.
Back up.
Now I get it. Equipment slots was that such and such plus strength.
Yeah.
Now I get it.
Jeremy,
and then you've got to calculate the size.
Jeremy, what's one bad rumor about you or your group, and it's a false rumor? It's not true.
Oh, false negative. I think like somebody accused us of being thieves. I'm not sure what job there was, but maybe people like accused us of having absconded with some funds somewhere, or just no. We earn our shit, but somebody along the way spread that rumor that
you guys are obnoxious, pretentious thieves
with a really pretty
with
botanical
beautiful garden and a badass shield on your ship. Okay, last question, and then we're out. What's the name of the ship?
Oh,
I thought we landed on a hot pocket.
Hot pocket is an old joke.
I got it.
We've done it before.
Wait. I had it.
To actually be.
I posted it in
Where'd you put it?
It was in chat.
I lost track of chat.
Way the fuck back there. Let me get it.
So,
hang on, I'll get you. I can do things.
You threw it in Foundry chat. I may have been able to find it, but you threw it over here. And
okay, I'm going to put it in Foundry chat because I can't pronounce that.
Oh God,
it's French.
We're going.
Oh, I love speaking French. Kipser's in chat, so she can tell you I'm
all
very
right.
good at French.
Hold on. Let's ask Kipser how you say this.
Posh.
Oh, there's the thing where I can hear it.
Posh-should.
Posh.
Posh-should.
Poshad.
Posh-should.
Poshad.
All right.
I probably don't
somehow in chat.
as well.
Give us a phonetic pronunciation.
Yeah.
Poshad.
It's got to be something pretentious.
That's pretentious, I think. I think
it's a posh Chad. Posh Chad.
Yo, why don't we do Posh Chad?
That is the name of your ship. It is the Posh Chad.
Because Posh Chad is French for hot pocket.
So great. All right,
great.
y'all.
so Maitre, how do we properly pronounce that?
My very limited knowledge of French tells me that it's Posh Chad.
Okay.
I mean, if we don't change it to Chad, some of us, I'm not going to say who,
Posh
are going to make
Chad,
a lot
though.
of
Posh Chad.
and jokes. I'm pretty sure.
Chad.
I
is,
think Posh Chad is.
Posh Chad.
Okay.
Yeah.
I love it. All right.
oh my God.
The Posh Chad.
Let's call it there for
We're
tonight.
pretentious, but we say it wrong.
You still spell it that way, but oh goodness. Okay, I think we've got some characters. We got some finalizations that we're going to do off air. We'll be up in 2 weeks to play some more of this. We're going to be, this game is an every other week game, every other Monday. We're alternating with our Monster of the Week game. But yeah, next time we play in 2 weeks, we will play proper. We will actually dive in, see these characters at work, mess around with the system a bit. So yeah, I think we're good to go. And I'll help those of you who want some help on making weapons and maybe some other extra questions and such here and there. So why don't we do a couple quick closing plugs and we'll get on out of here. Joe, what do you got going on, man? You got a Friday game, right?
Yeah, on Friday we're going to be playing Anthea, the system I'm developing, and dragging everyone through doing free playtesting. It's good.
Fantastic.
It's going well.
Fantastic. Maitre, where can we find you on the internet?
When I'm not hanging out with you guys, I am Maitre Plays Games on YouTube, where I make system agnostic videos about tabletops that really center sort of player and GM experience.
Fantastic. Chuck, we already got Joe talking about Friday. What else you got going on with DOK, man?
It's Monday. So Wednesday, we're going to be playing some Dungeon Crawl Classics, the second edition adventure, Night Below. Joe said Friday. Saturday, during the day, I think we're scheduled for Forbidden Lands.
We are.
And that's over on Grim and Perilous Plays. And then Saturday at night, we're scheduled for some Weird Frontiers over on Goodman Games Official.
Perfect. And Jeremy, tell us about this Patreon.
Yeah, everybody's on Patreon. You've got comics, maps, tokens, fun stuff. Check it out.
Awesome. Okay, so I think that is it then. As for us here on Lollygaggers, what do we got next? Tomorrow night, we are starting up Marvel, the role-playing game. You can see Steven is running that one. You can also see Kipser and Aaron, myself, Melissa, as we are going to be doing an X-Men themed game. Thursday, we'll be back to Werewolf the Apocalypse. We just did another session 0 for that last week, and so we're going to be starting up that Chronicle proper on Thursday. Jeremy and Melissa are in that one. And then Friday, we've got some Delta Green. And Saturday, you can see myself, Melissa, and Maitre as we're playing, and some One Ring. And I think we're 3 episodes left at most. I think that's what we're thinking. So, and that's about it. We're going to go ahead and raid someone else, Insomnia Night RPG, because they always have those weird gifts that make us laugh. So we're going to go ahead and raid them. Follow the raid. If you haven't yet followed our channel here on Twitch, please consider doing so. Also, go check out Defenders as well. And if you haven't yet looked at Adventures of Lollygagging over on YouTube and Defenders of Cobalt over there and given us a sub over there, that'd be great as well. And Maitre Plays Games. That's it. Have a good night, everybody. We'll see you later.